Hello, I am John Espendiari, your host today for the Elpis podcast, a podcast which strives to bring hope to the hearts of Davao people. Today, we'll be talking about SDG9, which is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. But more specifically, we'll be going into social issues which inhibit SDG9. That is, the lack of transportational infrastructure, traffic congestion, as well as the consequences of these problems. Thank you for watching. So, the social problem which we have concluded is the most detrimental to SDG9 is the severe lack of transportation infrastructure in Davao City. And one of the main problems that we'll get into, which is caused by this, is traffic. And of course, that brings its own slew of problems. But again, we'll get into that later. Don't worry. So, with that being said, a lack of transportation infrastructure encapsulates a lot of things. It encapsulates, the unsafe pedestrians, the unsafe roads, the small roads, and all these things come together, and it costs people time, it endangers lives, it gets people stuck in traffic, etc. So, with that being said, I'd like to ask you guys, what do you think are the root causes for, the severe lack of transportation infrastructure in Davao? Because, it is very, very problematic and prevalent. I'd like to ask you first, Aldrin. What do you have to say?
For me, like, what's the question again?
What do you think are the root causes for the problem?
Um, um, the root causes of traffic. There are too many cars and not enough good roads or public transportation. Some areas also doesn't have enough buses or jeepneys. So people use their own cars. Also, narrow roads and road repairs can also make traffic worse.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Those are all very, very important ways that a lack of transportation infrastructure causes traffic. Thank you for that. Miji, would you like to add on to how or some potential root causes for our social issue?
Um, I like also to add that root of causes of traffic and poor transportation are due to rapid urban growth, poor planning, and car dependence, leading to congestions, delays, and daily commuting struggles.
Okay, thank you. So, Miji and Aldrin just talked about how a lack of transportation infrastructure causes traffic or traffic congestion. Now, I'd like to ask the two of you, Eman and Eliza, what do you think causes our main issue, our main social issue, which is the lack of transportation infrastructure itself? Can I hear from you, Eman, first, please?
All right. As you mentioned, the reasons for the lack of transportational infrastructure. Am I right? One of the very major causes for the lack of transportational infrastructure is the government not taking action. I mean, technically, yes, they are taking action, but it isn't sufficient enough to see actual improvements in our situation, especially here in Davao City.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. How about you, Jana, Eliza? Would you like to add on to that at all?
I would I would like to add on to Emin's answer that despite its economic growth, only a small percentage of funds are allocated to transportation and urban development, which leads to um, slowing down improvements. Additionally, bu- bureaucratic processes, land acquisition challenges, and dependence on the national government approval further delay infrastructure expansion.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, you actually mentioned, which I'm really, really interested in. You mentioned that people are depending on the government. I actually agree with that. Because, although the government obviously needs to act in order to address transportation infrastructure, as well as, the huge prominent causes, which is traffic congestion, the people need to act as well. Because if we just depend on the government and don't really take action ourselves, nothing's going to happen. Because like as much as it is the government's problem, it is ours as well. Yeah. So thanks for that insight, everyone. As for, I think that's good for this segment. For the next segment, I'd like to talk about the impact. So the lack of transportational infrastructure causes a lot of things. It, because of the lack of pedestrian lanes and the dangerous sidewalks, lives are risked because of the smaller roads, the lack of jeeps or public transport. A lot of time is wasted. Can I hear you guys's personal experiences regarding our social issue or anything you'd like to talk about regarding the impact?
All right, so I'd like to go first. So I just recently traveled. Uh, so as I traveled from Davao to Mati, I noticed that like especially in the Sasa area, there seemed to be an unusually large amount of traffic congestion. We stayed there for quite a while before we got to go forward once again. And not only that, but as we went on, as the journey proceeded, I noticed that the road was very inconsistent in its material. One minute it would be very bumpy, yet the next would be smooth. And it's like just like a cycle, it's just repetitive. And I think this is an issue that can be seen or experienced by commuters or travelers or people who transport things all throughout the entire Philippines. That's all.
I would like to add on to Emin's answer that as I've experienced, there are times where when heavy rains flooded streets, making it difficult to get to school and important events because of poor drainage systems and road maintenance.
And how about you, Audrey? Would you like to say anything about your personal experiences regarding our social issue?
Um, it affects me a lot. One time I was late for school because of traffic jam. Even though I left early, I still got stuck in traffic. It made me feel stressed and tired sometimes because riding jeep also takes a long time because of heavy traffic, especially during rush hours.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'd like to add on that if you're a commuter, it can be very, very difficult to find a Jeep sometimes. Like, I remember one time, even for me, I was at Rojas, just like from the night market chilling out, and it took me upwards of like 30 minutes to try and find a Jeep. And even 30 minutes later, I just couldn't find one. Because anytime I saw a Jeep, it would be either full, or if it wasn't full, it would like instantly fill up because of the crowd of people. And it got to the point where even though I live pretty far away, it was like a 30-40 minute walk, I thought it'd be faster to just walk home. So that's what I did. So it's really, really crazy. Oh, how about you, Meiji? Would you like to say anything?
Again?
Would you like to share your personal experiences as to how our social issue has impacted you at all?
Ah, yes. There's one time I almost arrived late to class, despite planning my time well because of heavy congestion. The frustration of sitting in traffic, knowing I could have been on time with better roads or public transit. It made me realize how inefficient the system is.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Something else I'd like to mention. Everyone here has talked about like being stuck in traffic or something along the lines of that. But something I want to mention is how, aside from it just like taking up a lot of time, it's also like very risky to our lives. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but like in Davao, there is a severe lack of like pedestrian streets, sidewalks, or anything of the sort. So if you want to walk somewhere, it's really hard, and there's a very high chance, at least compared to other countries, of being hit by a car or something of the sort. And it just really sucks. So, with that being said, everyone here has had a negative experience. Everyone here has had an experience or run-in with our social issue, which really shows how impactful, prevalent, and serious it is. So, with that being said, I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts on how we can potentially address and hopefully begin to solve this problem. Amiji, can you please start because you ended last time? What do you think is a potential way we can address, this problem?
Maybe improving public transit, expanding and maintaining roads, using smart traffic systems, promoting carpooling, and maybe investing in bike lanes and walkable infrastructure, enforcing better traffic laws, and adopting efficient urban planning.
Aldred, can you add on to that? What do you think are some potential solutions?
Um, s- um, like adding more buses and jeepneys in the city, um, build more bike lanes, and encourage carpooling. Yeah, that's all.
Emma, can I hear from you? What do you think is a potential
Right.
solution?
Okay. So I think Niji and Alged solutions are very effective. And I'd like to also add that we could try and advocate um, to the government about our issues and work with the government and the authorities that are related in traffic to make the uh, the roads a better place by following laws. We could also help give ideas. We could give ideas to the government.
Okay, how about you, Eliza? Would you like to share your potential solutions or thoughts to how we can address this?
I would like to add that promoting flexible work hours and remote work can distribute traffic more evenly throughout the day, easing congestion. And that's probably it.
Yeah, I like all of your solutions, but something I want to mention is like a more fundamental solution because everything I said is right, but the manner to achieve that is quite difficult. Like we can't just magically start repairing roads or start investing more and more. So I like to share that I think it's important for again us as people to start doing more, to start taking more action, to start bringing awareness to this problem. That way, once more people have eyes on it, it'll be seen as a more serious issue, and more money will be invested into it. Because I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but only about 5% of the city's budget is actually being invested into this problem, into transportation infrastructure, which, all things considered, isn't a very large amount at all. And another thing I'd like to mention is how there's like the problem is like perpetuating itself. I believe Miji mentioned how like one of the ways we can address this is by encouraging like walking and not relying on cars so much. Well, the problem is that our social issue, it kind of, because there isn't enough pedestrian lines, because there isn't enough sidewalks, people are more likely to rely on cars, which in turn also worsens traffic. And it's just like a constant loop of this problem getting worse and worse and worse. So we just need to address, like the fundamental cause. What do you guys think is one of the fundamental causes that we can try and address? Would anyone like to share?
For me, a fundamental solution to traffic congestion is better urban planning that prioritizes mixed-use developments, reducing the need for long commutes. Investing in efficient and affordable public transportation may also encourage people to rely less on private vehicles. And probably designing roads with the proper traffic flow systems, such as roundabouts and dedicated lines, helps manage vehicle movement more effectively.
Before we close off, would anyone else like to add on as to how they think we can possibly address this more fundamentally? Okay, in that case, that's the end of the podcast. I'd like to thank you for listening. And I really, really hope that this podcast was able to bring to your attention the severity of this issue, as to maybe help you start and think how as well we can start to address and solve this problem. And hopefully, for this problem to be less significant in the future after we've addressed it. With that being said, thank you for listening. Thank you for the time. That's it. Okay, guys.